back and welcome to another Vlogmas video. Today we have a very special Christmassy treat for you. Button is back again on the channel. So let's say hello to everyone. And we have a guinea pig Christmas carol for you today. So it's super festive. Button's been looking forward to this and so have I. So yeah, I will leave my Vlogmas playlist up above if you've missed any videos. So you can click on that to catch up. And let's get started. It was Christmas Eve and Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge sat busy in his counting house, solitary as an oyster. His business partner Marley had died 7 years ago this very night, leaving the old miser to run the counting house by himself. You see, Mr. Scrooge? Nobody ever asked, "My dear Scrooge, how are you?" But what did Scrooge care? He liked being left alone. The door to Scrooge's office was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, Mr. Bob Cratchit, who sat in a dismal little cell beyond, copying his letters. Scrooge had a small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. He couldn't make it any bigger because Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. Does Mr. Cratchit look? Yes. Bob tried to warm himself at the candle, but being a man of little imagination, he failed. Just then, in came Scrooge's nephew, Fred. "Merry Christmas, Uncle," he said. "Will you come and dine with us on Christmas Day?" "Christmas," said Scrooge. "Bah humbug." "Bah humbug." The frost and fog hung about in the city as Scrooge made his way home at the end of the day. But when he put his key in the lock, he glanced up at the door knocker and saw that it was no longer a brass knocker. Can you see what it is? It had transformed into Marley's face. Shocking, isn't that a bit scary? Yes, little bit. Yeah, I know. Stripy guinea pig. And then it was the knocker again. Pooh-pooh, thought Scrooge, closing the door with a bang. Up Scrooge went to bed, not caring a button for the dark. You're in the story, Button. Yes, you are. But then he heard the sound of a heavy chain being dragged up the stairs and coming straight towards his door. It was Marley's ghost. Can you see? Yes. "I am here tonight to warn you," said the ghost, "that you have yet a chance of hope of escaping my own sad fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits of Christmas. Expect the first tomorrow when the clock strikes 1. Scrooge tried saying humbug, but stopped at the first syllable. Bong! The hour sounded, a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy one. No guinea pigs on that page. It's just not interesting. Scrooge found himself face to face with the first spirit. It wore a tunic of purest white, and round its waist was a band, a lustrous belt, the sheen of which was beautiful to behold. "Who and what are you?" Scrooge demanded. "I am the ghost of Christmas past." I know, isn't she pretty? They passed through a wall and travelled back in time and across open fields until they came to the village where Scrooge had grown up. The spirit pointed to a building of dull red brick. "The school is not quite deserted," said the spirit. "A solitary child neglected by his friends is left there still." It was Scrooge when he had been small, a lonely schoolboy on Christmas Day. Poor Mr. Scrooge. Poor Mr. Scrooge. "Poor boy," said Scrooge. "Spirit, show me no more. I told you these were the shadows of things that have been," said the spirit. "They are what they are. Do not blame me." And then Scrooge found himself in his bedroom again, where he sank into a heavy sleep. I know, he looks very comfy, doesn't he? Bong, bong. The clock struck the hour of 2. Yes. Do you know which ghost is coming now? Shall we see? Oh, a very handsome ghost. Scrooge awoke to see his own room, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. There was holly and mistletoe everywhere, and a mighty blaze from the fireplace. In the middle of the room stood a jolly giant, glorious to see. I am the ghost of Christmas Present. And you're right, he is posing just like this. Just like this. The good spirit led Scrooge straight to Bob Cratchit's house. At the table sat Mrs. Cratchit, waiting to carve a very small turkey. Then in came Bob Cratchit with his son Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch. Bob took up his place at the table and proposed a toast. "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears." "God bless us, every one," said Tiny Tim. You see Tiny Tim there? "Tiny Tim looks so frail, Spirit," said Scrooge. "Tell me if he will live." "I see a vacant seat at the table and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die." "Oh no," said Scrooge. "Oh no, kind spirits say he will be spared." Then he heard Bob making another toast. "I give you Mr. Scrooge," declared Bob, "the founder of the feast." "Founder of the feast, indeed," said Mrs. Cratchit. That odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man." Like Mrs. Cratchit. Can you see her there? Yes. By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily. I know, it's not snowing here, is it? Scrooge and the spirit continued through the streets until they reached the house of Scrooge's nephew. "And my uncle said that Christmas was a humbug," Fred declared to his guests. "Still, I mean to invite him to dine with us every year, whether he likes it or not. Here is a glass of mulled wine to hand. Let us toast to Uncle Scrooge. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, wherever he is." What's coming now, Button? Look. Bong. The clock struck again. Bong, bong. It's 3. Scrooge looked about him for the jolly giant, but it had vanished. Then he beheld a solemn phantom draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. "Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?" asked Scrooge. The spirit answered not, but pointed onward. It's a bit scary, isn't he, Button? The spirit and Scrooge walked through the city. The spirit stopped beside a little knot of men. Scrooge knew these men. They were the men of business, very wealthy and of great importance. They were talking of an acquaintance who had recently died. "When did he die?" asked one man. "Last night, I believe," his friend replied. "It's likely to be a very cheap funeral," the first man said. "I don't know of anybody to go to it." What's on the next page, Button? Oh, it's a sad page. "Spirit, I feel our parting moment is at hand," said Scrooge. "Tell me, who is the man who died?" The spirit led him to a churchyard and stood among the graves, pointing down to one. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and followed the spirit's finger. Upon the stone he read his own name. There's a paw print on the stone since it's a guinea pig. Pride and Prejudice. Nope. Christmas Carol. We've done Pride and Prejudice. I know. I mistook the book. Very silly. Spirit, help me to avoid this lonely fate, cried Scrooge. I am not the man I was. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it every year. I will live in the past, the present and the future. The spirits of all three shall live within me. Scrooge looks a bit happier now, doesn't he? You see the candy canes as well. I know, yeah. Ding dong bell, the bells rang out. Scrooge awoke and he was home. Yay! The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in. He rushed into the street. Golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells, oh goodness glorious. I am as giddy as a schoolboy. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to the world. Oh, what's the day today? Cried Scrooge to a passing boy. Today, replied the boy. Why, Christmas Day. Do you know if poulters have sold the prize turkey? The one as big as me, replied the boy. No, it's sitting there now. Well, send it to Bob Cratchit, said Scrooge. When Bob Cratchit came into the office, Scrooge declared, Merry Christmas, Bob. I have decided to raise your salary and help Tiny Tim. Here, said Scrooge, have a cup of mulled wine. And Scrooge and his mulled wine and Bob Cratchit. It looks yummy, doesn't it? Yes. Scrooge walked about the streets and watched the people excitedly hurrying to and fro with presents and patted children on the head. He had never dreamed that anything could give him so much pleasure. Finally, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. Why, bless my soul, said Fred when he heard the knock upon the door. Who's that? It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. Come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? What do you think? Do you think he's going to let him in? Oh, it's true. That is so true. And henceforth it was always said of Scrooge that he knew how to keep Christmas well. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. And there we go. It's the end. All the guinea pigs. Look at Tiny Tim. I know, it was a happy ending. Yes, you're so right. Well, I hope you enjoyed a guinea pig Christmas carol. Today is the last of my Vlogmas videos, so I hope you have enjoyed what I've put up this Vlogmas. I will see you on Thursday with my review of the year. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed. Give Button some love. Make sure you subscribe so that next video lands in your subscription feed. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.